about is something that is really, really hot right now in all work environments. At least I'm noticing it in an HR capacity, is the idea of wellness, right? And health and wellness, and people needing more mental health. And it's really that balance. And I'm noticing more and more employers are being requested or required by employees to provide more of that. As a leader, what are your thoughts on that? I'm noticing that employees they're choosing that over extra pay. They're choosing, the flexibility of a work-life balance or more mental health days over a lot of other perks that used to be more important. And employers are noticing that it actually is impacting the workload, and they're really having to hire maybe 1.5 employees instead of one employee because of that kind of stuff. Have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm really curious too to know how many people are simply just because they have those perks, they're choosing to work for that company because they know already going in that, they must care. They must truly care. Oh, okay. So I'm super curious, just knowing you have that right on the list on the benefits, wow, okay, I definitely want to work for this company first and foremost. But then second, I do think people, they want those benefits because they want to know someone cares, and I think it makes them feel safe. I know for me going into that, I would, if someone's offering me, right, well, you get your health insurance and all those things, but right, we give you days for your mental health, absolutely, no questions asked. I think that it gives you peace of mind, just to know someone is thinking of that. But I think work takes so much from you. It really can. I know for me, it just can be exhausting. And so even though I had a weekend, those days were just to recuperate, to go back to my job. They were spent, it was my personal time that I had to spend to try and get myself up to an energy level where I could perform and talk to people again, because that's how exhausting it was. So I think if you already have a business that's invested in that, you hope they're already thinking of that, and ideally your job is going to be a little bit more supportive and relaxed, and you won't have to spend your personal days taking that time to recuperate. And you already have that, right? Those extra days you were talking about for mental health, that they're there if you need them. So sometimes I think even with anxiety and stress, just knowing there's something for you alleviates the pressure, if you know what I mean. Sometimes, just knowing that there is something there automatically makes you feel better, even though you may never have to use it. And so I just think it's now and today, it's just more important than ever, especially with news and social media and everything. It seems like you're bombarded constantly, and then to have to be at work and go home, and I don't know how that is for you, but I know for me, I've definitely had points in my life where my free time was not my free time. It was actually really my mental health time to be ready to work again. And I know people talk about that. I'm sure people have heard it many different ways. I would call it the Sunday blues. I've recently seen it called the Sunday scaries, which I love even more. It's pretty funny.
That's going to be the funniest way to word it, yeah.
So, but it's true. It's really sad, but it's true.
It's funny that you worded it that way. That's the first time I've heard it that way, and I guess I need to change my mindset a little bit, and I'll explain why in a second. But when you said it automatically makes you think that employer cares about you, and I never once took it that way when you said, that's why they would offer that benefit. And I'm like, okay, I can see how it would come across that way, and having the explanation. I guess from an employer's perspective, I look at it the other way. It's more time away from work that your employees are not able to commit to being there. And so then I look at it and I'm like, okay, so as an employer or as a business owner, I now have to figure out how to compensate the person who's gone during that period of time, but then also the workload that needs to be accomplished.
Yeah.
And then how do I juggle that, right? And so as a business owner or as a leader, you have to figure out what that looks like. I think there's ways to do it without having to add extra employees, right? And it really is that idea of the people first. And when you invest in people, they're more productive when you do give them the downtime. And that's one thing leaders have to remember. It's not that, oh my gosh, now I have to come up with someone else to do this work. You have to remember that, like you just said, when I've got time to take care of myself and to actually rejuvenate and to really encourage myself to take the ability to breathe, just take time to breathe and recoup and let my brain rest and everything else, I can give you 100%. I can give you 95%, whatever your best is, as opposed to coming in on a Monday after, this really, really tough ability over the weekend to just breathe a little bit and go, okay, just whatever I've got, I'm giving it on Monday, and it's like 40%, right? But that's the best you have at that point.
Yeah.
It really isn't going to give the company the best. So I guess when you look at it that way, it is a really good benefit to offer.
Yeah.
Do you think people would take advantage of it, or do you think there's still that stigma around the idea of taking a mental health day?
I think nowadays, you definitely see more people take advantage of it, for sure. I think you would.
I do. I think post-COVID, I think people realize that it isn't the stigma of what mental health really used to mean. It really is just the idea that we're all responsible for taking care of ourselves, and our job can't be the most important thing. It really can't. And I tell people, I'm in HR, so I tell people that every day, like, if this is the most important thing in your life, you do not have the right priorities. You have to make sure you are your first priority, and your health is the most important thing. It really is. For the company's sake, for your sake, for your family's sake, you really have to invest. So I guess that's maybe something as a leader we need to make sure we're pushing more in our organizations, is the idea that we need to invest in our employees' ability to have some downtime for that purpose. Not just, hey, use your PTO or your sick leave and that's what you get, but really let's invest in making sure people know there's that extra time for that purpose.
It's interesting too with timing and just PTO and the things you get too, because I think having those extra days or things like that, or whatever you would want to call it, a lot of the times, right, you only have maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it may be, and those are your days off. So when there's a doctor's appointment, when there's one of these, it might not be, your PTO might not be used for things that you're going to relax or go or see people or see family. It's things you have to do, things that come up. And so that can also be a bummer for people sometimes as well. This year I had a lot of appointments, or I had a lot of obligations, so I didn't get time for myself. I had to do these instead. So,
or if you have children, you know what? How often do parents come to or call in on working because their kids are sick from going to school? Like it really does impact when you just have one single bank of PTO to figure out how you juggle that into the time to take care of yourself and your kids when they're sick, and doctor's appointments and just life in general. Right? And then the time that you're actually going to go and take the family vacation, and then maybe it limits it to 1 week because you really do have to bank that time, because you don't know what's going to happen. There's so many what ifs, especially when you have small children.